every 10 minutes. Like, and with the temperature checks, and this was one other question I had for both of you. Have you heard anything about mandatory vaccines for if and when a vaccine becomes available, if it will be mandatory for kids to get it before they can come back to school?
I have not.
Okay.
Mm-mm. I would not be compliant with that at all. But I have heard parents are like, how can we send our kids back unless we have that vaccine?
Huh.
So there are people who are willing to do that to their children.
Yeah,
Um,
but even I mean, and again, I know there's folks out there who are kind of already anti-vaccine, but even with this one, especially because it's going to be so new, there may be. I think there's going to be even more parents who are apprehensive about it because it's so new, because we just haven't had the time to research it. So I've heard some parents. These are parents who've given their kids, other vaccines, but with this one in particular, they're like, no, I don't think I'm going to wait on because I just want more research before I would give it to my kids. So I'm curious if that's going to be an issue when I don't know when they're talking about the vaccine. I think October is the earliest I've heard, but maybe between October and January. So if it does become available, that's anything that they've talked about in North Carolina, Angela, that it would be
they're having a lot of meetings, so it's hard for me to just keep
okay.
up with all of it. They're like, so I just watched the local two board meetings. Like our board of commissioners met yesterday, passed that budget. Then the LEA, the local education agency, met yesterday, and then they're meeting again today. And then I'm subscribed to the state board of education too. I ignore like the textbook commission, right? Because who uses those anymore? That's one meeting I don't watch. Just more sarcasm, right?
Unless they're putting it, online.
A lot of the comments that I saw on that post I was telling you about that the local newspaper did were parents saying things like, the statistics show that kids are at so little risk of injury or illness or death from coronavirus. Why are we worrying about it? And so all of these precautions that the school districts are talking about, I just wonder who exactly are they doing it for? Because from the reactions I'm seeing from parents are not as concerned about things like social distancing. And maybe it's because they're, like I remember back in March, the neighborhood kids were not playing with each other, but they have been for a while now. Right. And, I've got teenagers and young adults at my house. Social distancing is over. It's like they're not doing it. And I know they have to be careful about things like liability. But if you look at the data, it seems like every week when the data is aggregated, it shows that there's less and less risk for children and even for adults who are not in the older categories. And so I wonder if as we get more and more of this data, if some of these precautions will be, lessened or the parents are just like, look, we don't care. We just want our kids to go to school. That's what a lot of those comments were like they're fine. We're willing to take the risk. But the school system, the public school system is not set up to respond to customer feedback, right? Like they don't have to because it's a monopoly. And so they don't really care too much, I think, what the parents want because they don't have to. So, what do you think the motivation is with all of these very specific extreme things? Do you think it's a big concern about liability or?
Oh, I think so. Yeah. I think even just a few cases, there could be some backlash. So yeah, I think a lot, and some of it is, well, I don't want to get into politics, but some of it may be a little bit political of we're just kind of going with, what we feel the majority, will, consider to be safe. I'm questioning whether or not, because like I said, I've seen a lot of parents talking about, kind of threatening of, well, if enough of us pull our kids out of school, they'll stop all this. And to me, it's going to be interesting that will they back down, if enough parents push back and threaten to pull their kids out, or are they just going to go, along with this?
Yeah.
And will they be upset when they realize, a big chunk of their money is still going to that school when they leave it?
Yeah.
That's true too. And that's what I'm hoping, that parents will become more aware of their rights and their role in their kids' education.
Right.
I was going to add to this that I keep hearing people say that, but our numbers are going up. But in North Carolina specifically, our numbers were never really high compared to the other 50 states. So leaders higher up, the few that would ask questions or appear to be pushing back a little bit, would be attacked because of the numbers. Well, why are we still locked down? Why are restaurants still closed after day 75 or whatever? But things have slowly changed, but not in the case of gyms and schools. And but anyway, so when we're testing more, the numbers are going to go up, right? But when we tested almost none at all, the numbers would stay low. So I think pointing that out is helpful too. Now that we have how many millions of test kits, and if we're offering them up free, we're going to have more data, right? But still, I think the hospitals, I don't know if it was in the state, but I saw a low number, so I guess I shouldn't speak to that. But the data is not really coming full circle. Although we're saying, hey, we're going to rely on science and data, are we really seeing it? So if people are mingling again and having those play dates, then what's holding them back? If you are immunocompromised, maybe you should stay home and consider virtual school or homeschool or hiring a teacher. All the more incentive for education savings accounts to benefit you to stay in your homeschool or hire someone instead of having to be using that one option based on your zip code.
Right.
Yeah, that's a great point. Oh gosh, there was something else that I was going to bring up.
About the numbers going up?
Oh yeah, about there is supposedly there's talk about there being a second wave in the fall. So that could
here it is.
That may play.
Let's do the wave.
Woo!
So that I wonder if that argument is going to refute like what you were saying, if we look at the data that we have now and it's showing that we all kind of overreacted, could still the fear of the second wave. And there's still I keep seeing mixed data about children, because in the beginning it was, oh well, children are not as susceptible to this, but now supposedly there's other diseases and things that have come from this that are showing up in children. Have you guys heard any of that? Do you think that'll be a factor? Okay. Yeah, because that's what I think. That's why the schools are being so careful about this, is because I guess they just feel like there's not enough data out there, especially when it comes to kids, and because kids are so vulnerable and they have so much liability. But yeah, it's going to be interesting.
I think it's just an opportunity to milk this crisis. I mean, it looks like it's a great way to justify spending more. And so we see that with the CARES Act. Okay, 14 additional million is going, plus there's going to be additional county spending just on my local county level. And people are asking for raises. Like, people don't realize that if the money doesn't exist, we should maybe stop spending it. It's just really sad what's going on. But anyway, if you're getting the government to comply with you every time you ask for money, why wouldn't you keep asking, right?
Right.
So yeah, because that was the first, like I said in the article that I was reading about Virginia, they were talking about equity, and then that was the next thing that they went into, was right into, okay, we need more money. And to me, if you did get rid of the police officers, I mean, that would be a bit of a chunk there. And to me, I think that there's quite a bit of money there. I think it's going to need to be reallocated.
Yeah, our superintendent makes $300,000. I think it might be 304, actually.
Yeah, ours is over 300,000 too.
Okay, because in Charlotte, I can't remember if it was that much, but it was quite a bit. Yeah, and like I said, I've worked in some very poor areas of Eastern North Carolina, and there were tons of supplies and books, and there was like warehouses of just all this extra stuff that everybody, I guess, just got tired of because we went on to the next thing. And I thought, gosh, this is such a waste. And we have, all these things here. So, yeah, to me, I think it's kind of a wake up call of we need to, look at what we have and how can we make those changes. And again, I know with the equity issue, and one of the things that this article mentioned, and it is close to my heart and background, is English language learners. And so they were talking about how can we, create equity for them. When it comes to the remote learning, I think there's a lot of, even language learning programs that are out there. I do think, again, for language learning, you do need to have some communication, um, with other speakers of that language. But there certainly are things, that are out there. But I don't know if it's the schools just don't really want to invest in those. They just want to invest in, teacher to classroom. But there's definitely a lot of options out there, and I certainly agree with that of making things equitable. That's something to look at. But does that necessarily mean more funding, or do we just need to think differently?